Hi everyone, this is Shervin Shaffie. It's been some time since I posted my last video. I actually joined Microsoft Teams as a principal technical specialist in the last month, and I've been ramping up. So in the future videos from me, you'll be hearing more about Microsoft Teams, and I'll also be doing a lot of compare and contrast between Cisco Collaboration and Microsoft Teams since I was focused on that technology for quite some time. And so with that, in today's video, let's start off by looking at some of the differences between Microsoft Teams and Cisco Collaboration. So at a high level, when you look at these platforms like Microsoft Teams and Cisco Webex or even Zoom, they look very similar, right? There are messaging components where you can instant messaging and there's presence and you can do group chats. There is a conferencing component like Microsoft Teams conferencing or Webex or Zoom meetings. And then there's also a calling component. It can be an on-premise or cloud calling. And I've done sessions on these in the past for Cisco calling, and I'll do future ones for Microsoft. So they look very similar. And even from a feature functionality perspective, still very similar, right? Like I just saw that there was a WebEx One event last week, and there was discussion about noise suppression, and in the past they had come out with breakout rooms and all these kinds of features. But really, from a features perspective, in my opinion, I look at it as almost a commodity, right? Like everybody has these features now. They're cool features, they're great features, like background, virtual backgrounds, and noise suppression, and breakout rooms, and closed captioning, and transcriptions. Awesome features. And if for some reason one of these vendors doesn't have it, don't worry. A lot of these are cloud products, so within a couple of weeks or a couple of months, they're going to get rolled out, pushed out to your users. So if you're not on some type of a lockdown version of the application, you'll be able to get it. So I don't really put a lot of weight on the feature functionality. What I do look at is more the actual, what you don't see really, the background. Like how is the system built? What is the architecture? What is the larger picture of where this solution fits in? And there, on that point, there are very stark differences in these technologies. Looking at this high level, if you really think about it, Microsoft has always been a software company, right? Since the beginning of time, when I first started using it, it was DOS, right? The disk operating system that was command line, and then Windows came. And so they've always been a software company. And on the other hand, Cisco has really always been a hardware company. And they're trying to get into software, but they've traditionally been a hardware company, right? Routers and switches and firewalls. And then later on, they got into telephony and meetings and all this kind of stuff, right? So software company, hardware company. So fundamentally, they're different from each other in that sense. So hardware versus software, right? That's just one of the points. And so you might be thinking, so what? But the point is that in this day and age, the focus is really on software, right? There's less and less importance on the hardware to the point where companies are just kind of building their own hardware. I mean, if you look at Apple that just created the M1 chip and moved away from Intel, or if you look at the fact that Microsoft really doesn't have any devices of their own in terms of phones and video endpoints, but they just partner with Poly and Yealink and Lenovo and Crestron, and they just basically take the hardware from them and they interoperate with the Microsoft software. On the other hand, Cisco is really just focused on building their own ecosystem, right? So they have their own Cisco phones and Cisco video endpoints. Phenomenal devices, right? I still to this day love their devices, but it's a different mindset. The mindset is we're going to build our own hardware and it's going to interoperate with our software. And Microsoft's mindset is that we're going to focus on the best software that there is, and we're going to have feature velocity and all the platforms, integration into Azure and Active Directory, and all the different backend systems on compliance and security that Microsoft has been known to do a phenomenal job on. And we're going to have the hardware be provided by someone else. Now, the other way you can differentiate these solutions is by your end user workflow, right? And a lot of these solutions, they've been trying to create products that are like a one-stop shop where you can just live inside that application. And so for Microsoft, it's Microsoft Teams. You can live inside that application. You can live inside the different teams and channels and integration to your calendar and your telephony environment and voice and video calling, and everything is just built inside Microsoft Teams. Cisco attempted to do this with Webex Teams, where you can also have different groups and one-on-one chats and group chats and calling platform and video platform and integration to your calendar and Webex. And Zoom is also trying to do the same thing over time, right? With the addition of calling platforms and messaging platforms in the future to their application. So everybody is trying to kind of go for this one-stop shop where you just live inside that application. It's the new Outlook, if you will, right? Because before we maybe just lived inside Outlook and we received emails and we looked at our calendar and we joined meetings from there. But now more and more people are really just having their Teams application up and going from there to different places. Now the thing is, no one does this better than Microsoft, because Microsoft doesn't just own the Teams infrastructure and all the components that connect to it in terms of telephony and calendar, but they own the operating system, right? Windows is theirs. So they're able to tap into not just the APIs of the Office 365 application so that you can have this natural workflow from inside Teams where you can have integration to OneDrive and your Word documents and Excel documents and co-sharing and co-authoring. And although applications like Webex Teams try to do this, they're doing it using APIs and they don't have that native capabilities that Microsoft does, because Microsoft owns everything. They own the OS, they own the Office 365 suite, they own Teams, calling. Again, the only thing that they're handing out is really just the devices, right? Like the SBCs for the direct routing maybe, or the headsets or the hard phones or video endpoints. They're handing that out. But in terms of software and integration to the different layers of software, they're able to keep that all contained and really one massive ecosystem. So therein lies the difference between Zoom and Cisco and Microsoft. What is that workflow? What are your users using in terms of communicating? Do they have to go from a Zoom interface to an Outlook interface? Or do they have to go from a Webex tool to a Microsoft tool? Do they have to shift? Is that an issue? Maybe that's not an issue. Maybe you can do what you would consider best of breed, or maybe you do want to consolidate and have one stack. One other way you can compare these solutions also is by looking at everything that's not really front end user. It's like all the back end infrastructure. How are the audio and the video calls transported? How are they mixed? What is the quality that I'm seeing? Is it high definition? Is it 720? Is it 1080p? Is it good enough? Can I hear everyone? Is it able to scale when I have bursts, when I have all hands, when I have large meetings? Is it able to scale, and so we don't have any issues for large or even small meetings in terms of quality? And the way these applications work, Microsoft Teams, Webex, and Zoom, is actually quite different on the back end. And it's very rarely ever discussed what happens, because it's just the cloud, right? It's the cloud. It works. Don't worry about it. So if you're able to really dig in and understand how is this transported, how am I assured that the audio and the video is not being sent across the world and then mixed? Is it staying local? These are the kinds of questions that you need to be able to ask and understand. And if you notice that the quality and the audio and the video is always great, then maybe you don't have to worry about it. It's perfect. But if you notice that you do have issues in terms of scale and quality, then this is a time to ask, right? Like, how is the audio being transported? What's the network like? Where is the mixing happening of the audio and the video? Where is this being sent back to? So again, there are differences between these platforms in how they actually process on the back end. So that's it for now. I hope you found this session useful. Please post your comments below. If you disagree with something, let me know what you disagree with and why. If you agree, let me know that you do and what it is that you agree with. And in the next sessions to follow, as I get more and more knowledgeable with Microsoft product set, I'll be doing more technical sessions to talk about Teams and the interop and calling and video and meetings and everything that Teams has to offer. So please post your comments. Let me know what you're interested in, what you agree or disagree with. and thanks again for watching.